Hey, Pepin.
Yo, 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 yo.
I'm thinking a lot lately about inspiration.
Inspiration. Is that what you get
hmm
when you look within yourself? You see the mountaintops and you realize that you can never get there?
Yeah, sometimes that's how it comes about, but I think sometimes it comes about other ways, like in a dream, or you look at a hot girl and you're just feeling so inspired.
I think I'm mostly inspired by hot girls, to be honest.
Sometimes I wake up with inspiration. Sometimes I feel so inspired right before bed, and I gotta get that inspiration out.
Hmm. Sometimes before bed I think about Dito Angel and I get super inspired. Like it just
Yeah.
gets to the heights that you can never imagine. And I just like fall asleep just thinking, what could I do? What could I do?
Nate, we need to talk.
This song is from the EP The Company You Keep, created by Moses, which is part band created by Matru, our guest.
Watch the blade, another led my eyes astray.
You can find more of them at omoses.com.
Throw your stones, the quiet makes me feel alone. What you hate to find, honesty is never what you want. In the farthest, coldest places, we got lost along the way.
Welcome back. So glad you guys could join us. I am here once again with my best friend Nathan. Pepin, how's it going today, Pepin?
Yo, I'm doing well. How about you? Yourself, Meter?
I'm doing great. I got a nasty sunburn that hurts, but you know what? It makes my blue eyes pop, so it's totally worth it. And we are joined today by very special guest, friend of the show, been on the show multiple times, way back in one of my favorite all-time episodes, Virginity Stories, Matt Drew. Welcome back, Matt.
What's up? What's up? How you guys doing?
Doing fantastic, thanks.
Yeah.
You were on the episode that birthed the Cinder Block, so we have to thank you a lot for that. That is part of our little poster thing.
I got in on the ground floor with those riffs. Those riffs were revolutionary riffs about you and that cinder block. I remember being proud of that, listening back to it, and everything I said still holds up to this day. I'd say it again in a heartbeat.
Just for people who are just coming into this and who haven't listened to the episode, I didn't do things with the Cinder Block. I just utilized it with a girlfriend.
Yes, it was a it was a normal thing. It was a normal cinder block.
Mm-hmm.
He was doing the normal stuff.
No, you had a weird relationship with that cinder block. You and that cinder block had this weird dependence on each other. It was this really codependent relationship that was really weird. I didn't know where you ended and the cinder block began. You guys were so intertwined with each other, where there was Pepin, there was that cinder block, and there was more to the story that no one was getting. And I'm glad that we could do our part in exposing that in the Virginities episode.
I highly suggest checking it out if you haven't yet. And it's something about, like, I love when you're on the show, Matt, because you bring such a unique energy, and the way your mind works is so fucked up and twisted. And I mean that with
Thank you.
all the love and passion I could possibly give.
Thank you. I love that. I love that.
And
Proud of it.
Having you on, like, you push the comedy, you push the envelope in general, but I think you push, like, the narrative in such an interesting way. It inspires me to do the same. So and that's interesting to me, and kind of on topic here as to, like, how you come about with ideas. Like, how did that whole riff with the cinder block that, like, became its own thing begin? And it just kind of, like, it was an in-between everybody on the show happening live. You could see it, like, slowly forming into a thing. Very interesting.
It's like any type of, like, crowd work type stuff. If you ever see comedians doing that, where you just capitalize on these little moments, and with luckily Pepin just gives you gold with a cinder block story. Just he was gonna move. He was gonna blow right past it. Let's just be honest. We're gonna put the cards on the table right now, Pepin. Your whole goal in the beginning was to get through to the end of the story. You didn't want to stop and talk about any of those little bits and details. You were gonna blow past them, and we kept you honest. Okay, we kept you honest. We took you aside, Pepin, and we held you to the coals, man. And that's what you needed in that moment, because that's ridiculous. The fact that you were utilizing a cinder block like that and you thought that was nothing. You thought that was not noteworthy. You bring it, you bring it to the table and you move on. No, no, no. We're gonna have seconds of that, okay?
I was honestly hoping you guys would just focus on how I lost my virginity instead of the cinder block. You know, in this how like I've had sex before and I've had sex more than once. But no, you guys just put some random thing out of the ether and just focused on it. Like,
Losing your virginity is a normal part of childhood. That cinder block, that was something special. Now, wait, did I say childhood?
yes.
Well, there's that. So, and I think that's super interesting because Nate does. You're right, Matt. You know, everything you say, whether it's a joke or not, always has this little kernel of truth, Matt. And I think that the kernel, the big kernel in this instance is that Nate does a great job at throwing out a bunch of hooks, or I think of it like a bunch of little threads. And sometimes that's where inspiration comes from. Is there's a bunch of little threads, and you choose to pull one of those threads. And that's always a very interesting way to do that. And I feel that usually comes for me in instances where something's kind of been marinating a little bit longer, and then I want to sit down and actually like explore that thing.
Yeah, I with my music, like, just that's all I do when I'm writing songs. It's playing different chords, playing different progressions, and like trying to hook onto little bits of it that lead you to the next hook, lead you to the next thing, and you keep connecting. It's like this weird puzzle, and you get to kind of like work through creative flowy ideas at the same time with like melodies, and really feel it out like that. And it's all just building upon moments, building upon other moments. And that right there is I feel like I sound like the most pretentious person in the world right now, because I'm so like, yeah, jokes all the time. But then when I start talking about like the thing that I actually am most passionate about, my music, it just, I dip into this like, well, you know, the idea of a song building onto another idea, it just sounds super up my own ass. But I hope it doesn't communicate that at all.
No, definitely not. And I think that that's the dichotomy of our show is we are hashtag smart comedy. So we have the comedy part, like we'll make a dick joke, but sometimes it'll be a dick joke about quantum mechanics, you know? So it's not about the fact that it's a dick joke, but it's about what created the dick in the first place to make a joke about. And sometimes it's quantum mechanics, sometimes it's inspiration, sometimes it's you're writing a song. Nate, do you follow some of that same path that Matt's talking about here, where you're starting out with trying out some different chords and seeing what kind of builds into something with substance?
At least as far as music, I'm a big improviser. I just kind of like mess around, and eventually I come across something that I like, and I kind of work on it a little bit. And then if it's really good, I might record it. But it's mostly just like random ideas, and just kind of like, one thing I can speak to is that we probably overheard this idea about the monkeys. So monkeys typewriting, and eventually they'll make Shakespeare if they're typing for long enough. And it's just because there's a certain number of combinations out there. It's just more of a math problem. And anything that you kind of come up with is just one of those combinations of, like, say, maybe it's an infinite set, but you say theoretically finite set. And that's kind of the same with music. So take music, there's in classical music, or say Western music, there's 8 notes, and there's all these different rhythms, and you could kind of generalize certain rhythms and certain things to be similar or the same. So there's only so many possibilities you can explore. And for me, it's just kind of generating all these different possibilities and just being like, does this sound good? Maybe. Does this sound good? Nah. And then just keep generating, and maybe you find something that sounds good. You tweak it a little bit, which for me is just kind of going to one slightly different version of that same riff or same idea. And sometimes you think, oh, this actually doesn't sound good right here, but in context to this, like let's say it's like a diminished chord, maybe this actually sounds good at the end of like a little progression here to build tension to the next part, which it's kind of this generation and then kind of curation, I think, is the way my process is.
That's awesome. No, that like I can't tell you how many times I've done the same thing where something wasn't working and then I just played the same notes but higher up on the neck, and it just completely changed the energy of it, and it really fixed the part of it. And that's what you have to do, I feel like, is just, it's like it all is like a Rubik's cube, I feel like, and you just got to find the combination, just got to find those colors, man.
There was a podcast I was listening to follow up with that, where this, I forget what song it was, but there's this really famous song out there, which it got like a couple Grammys and everything. And I guess originally the song had been going from person to person, like in the music community, and no one really liked it. And this one person just really loved it, so they sang it, and the way they sang it, like it sounded really off from the music. And I guess there was a producer who was listening back to it and was like, the way they're singing this, like they're hearing different chords in the back of their head. Like they're hearing this chord, this chord, this is this chord. But what the chords are here are these chords, and these chords don't work with this. So all they did was change the chords, and then it worked perfect. Then they got a couple Grammys. And sometimes there's that thing in the back of your mind that knows what it wants to do. It can hear the thing there, but sometimes it's just about kind of finding that exact combination, kind of like you're saying with the Rubik's Cube, where it just kind of gels and works together and communicates the idea you actually want to get across.
And that's super interesting that one artist can create a thing and know that there's something there, but there's something in their mind that like blocks them from actually seeing it. And then another artist can come along, or a producer, which I would say in a way can be like an artist when they can hear things like that and change it, to bring it back to Shrek, obviously. Hallelujah, Leonard Cohen. You ever heard Leonard Cohen sing Hallelujah? It's fucking hot garbage. But if you listen to Pentatonix do Hallelujah, it's one of the greatest songs ever. Lyrically, it's arguably the greatest song ever written. But when Leonard Cohen's mumble singing it like fucking Shatner, it sounds awful. And I'm glad he's dead so he can't hear me say that, because he wrote an amazing, brilliant song.
One thing which is really interesting about, say, artists, I think, is that sometimes the artist is dumb on the outside, but they're smart on the inside, if that makes any sense. Like I don't want to be like this kind of person, but Eminem, he's one of the best like rappers out there. The stuff he comes up with is genius. Listen to him in interviews, he doesn't seem that smart. I mean, he doesn't seem like he's dumb, but you just wouldn't expect that kind of genius there. Like he's got a far better engine in his brain than you would guess he has just by talking to him or just by seeing him. Like you wouldn't assume that sort of stuff. And it's kind of the way a lot of artists work. Like I talked to some very smart people before, and like they're smart in writing, but you hear them talk and you converse with them and they actually don't seem that brilliant. But there's this kind of weird duality sometimes between like the person who's on the outside and the person who's on the inside actually generating that content.
No, it's true. It's true. I mean, I think that, and if you really look at what he was doing too, there were different, like, he had different modes in his early days, and now he's just angry all the time. And every rap he does is super angry. It's just like, blah, 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 I hate everything. And it's like, he used to be so there were so many things that he was doing that were like layered. Like it was so intricate how he was rapping in his early times. But yeah, he had a completely different persona. He looked like trailer trash, right? And that was like the whole thing is, he rose above and he was like this genius, and it doesn't matter how you look.
Right. But Meter, do you say relate to what I'm saying, or am I just judging people according to their looks? Because I feel like I'm like maybe not, but I also feel like I feel like this is the outside. So here's an instance with yourself. So when I talk to you, I don't get this, say the presence that you're very good with lyrics and kind of rhyming and rapping and everything like that. Like, obviously you're brilliant, you're very, very smart in all these other ways, but I wouldn't surmise you have this kind of poetic ability just because it doesn't come across in your everyday life. But obviously you do, a la Jama's View, your album you released. And it's like you have such a tight rhyming scheme and everything. Like it's not something I would guess from the outside.
Yeah, I mean, and I think that's just interesting in general to how people are, is that some people do look the part and other people don't, and whether, but it really does show that like judging a book by its cover kind of is irrelevant in a lot of those senses, but in some senses it's right on. And I would point to Matt Drew with that, because I think Matt Drew, when the way you talk is brilliant in like an insane way, if that makes sense. Like I'm gonna offend you. There's no question. No matter what I say at this point, I'm going to offend you. But you're like,
No.
like me. I like to like figure out how people think, and you're fucking crazy. But it's crazy in such a way that like somehow it works perfectly, and it makes for a unique view on everything that really translates really well into art. And you do a good job of taking your unique view and being able to express it in a way that other people can still connect with. And I think that is the mark of going from somebody who's a good artist being able to just express themselves to a great artist being able to express themselves and get you to connect with that. And that's where I think you're at, Matt, to be able to take crazy and make it sane.
Well, I've always had this feeling of boredom with normal and, you know, just trying to make life interesting. And ever since a young age, I was always flocked to the weirdest thing, or like trying to just be mixing something up or commenting on a moment, breaking the fourth wall, so to speak, with life, and being like, isn't this crazy right now? And I feel like that kind of, but I was also like trying to connect with people too, just because I came from a big family and all of us competed for our parents' love and affection. There were like seven
who
kids
won,
in
by
my
the way?
family. So,
Who won the competition?
Hannah, the youngest girl,
That'll
she
do it.
won the competition. It was landslide. She was adopted. She
They
was,
chose her.
They chose her. They didn't choose any of us. Okay, we were like monsters who crawled out of them. And Hannah was this prize.
They already had
that they went.
They made 10 tries to make something usable, and they're like, we gotta go buy somewhere else.
You know what? There's a problem in the batter. We gotta go somewhere else.
Okay.
There is something rotten in this batter.
I think you do a great job of what you do there, and I think that I must have read you very well, because I don't know if we had ever talked before the first time at the end of that assembly.
It was so weird because there was no reason in the world that there was no reason for you to talk to me ever. You weren't on my team. You were like team 1 and I was team 3 or something.
Yeah.
And we were like opposite sides of the school. We like theoretically barely would see each other. Like you would be going to the same school that I was going to, but I very rarely actually saw you at school.
But we both worked at the same grocery store.
Exactly. So I had seen you enough. Yeah, exactly. I seen you enough at school that it was like, but like there was still like we worked at the same grocery store. I still worked at the same grocery store with so many people from your team that I never talked to. So it was like the fact that we would talk to each other, it was the universe. We were like magnets, man.
Well, what's super interesting to me is we had never talked before. But I knew the only way to approach you was with the weirdest fucking thing I could think of. I would have never approached anybody else in the world the way I approached you.
That's probably the best opening line anyone's ever said to me in my life. Like upon like meeting someone, like that being the first opening line. Nothing in my life has happened like that. So similar to a movie, man. That was like a movie. Someone just looking at you and going, "You want to take my shift? I'll give you something tasty."
So I wanted to go get laid.
Yeah.
So I was asking you to take my shift at work because I didn't want to call out.
Yeah.
So I said my opening line was, "Hey, you work at Market Basket, right?" Yeah. Okay. Well, I have this shift this day. You want to take it? I'll give you something tasty. I got it in my trunk. And you said yes.
Yeah.
And I got laid.
So where we're going with this is that the inspiration for your friendship was wanting to get laid.
It was, but it was also the the inspiration for like Matt's just aura permeated the room so much. I knew immediately. I was inspired immediately to be a fucking weirdo right out the gate, and it worked.
Yeah.
And I never looked back since.
Yeah, I'm like that. I'm like a reflector piece to weird, so it's like weird stuff happens around me because I got a weird energy. So no, that makes perfect sense. You got to go. So wait, what, that was you losing your virginity, right? You went off and met up with that girl and you lost your virginity. And it was because
and I got my first concussion.
Let that happen.
Episode 4, I believe. Check it out.
Yeah.
Remember that story?
Yeah. Yeah.
How could I forget
that story? Oh my God, do I remember that story? Damn.
And now, Nate, you are, as far as your art, let's talk about your music. So you say you like improvisation. So I remember when we lived together, you used to improvise all the time. You would put on an hour-long just like backing track of a drum loop or whatever, and you would just solo for like an hour at a time. Just one solo, 1 hour long solo.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm like, does this song ever end, Nathan?
No.
And I love that because I don't have that in me to be able to just like improvise musically for any length of time, let alone for hours at a time. So how do you find a wave to ride that continues that long? Or is it several waves that all kind of flow against or into each other?
The way I'd say it is, I think, and Matt can expand upon this, but music in a lot of way is built of licks. So licks are just kind of like these little ideas, like dun 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 dun. Like you can take like these different like little phrases, and kind of like with just talking language, right? So it's made up of words, and you can think of like words as notes, but then you have like a phrase. So like when you just string them together, that makes sense. So like, how are you doing? Is a phrase, right? So it's different words, and those words have, of course, have letters and everything, which you could say is like the niche, pitch, and timing and everything. But it, there is the words, and there's also how you say them. But it's based off of licks. So you take licks, and like some people have a very good lick library. I say I have an alright lick library, probably not that great though. But I can string together in a way where it's just kind of like talking. Like I can talk forever, unfortunately. Like you've heard me talk like for 7 minutes about the history of music, that one podcast. So it's like it's just stringing words together, and you just keep doing it. And you like to hear yourself talk, so you just keep doing it. And once you have a couple phrases down, you just string them one after another, after another, after another, and you just don't stop because soloing is amazing.
And I don't know, do you write lyrics, Pepin?
I used to, and then people told me to stop singing.
That's brutal.
Awkward Dinosaur is a great fucking jam, though.
It's like I remember Steve's sister heard some my music, and she was like, "Oh yeah, the music's really good. The guitar solo is really cool, but you should get a singer, like a different singer." I'm like, it's all me. I can't do that. it's not.
That's rough.
Yeah.
I mean, I the thing is, I remember when I was like 14, learning to sing was such a brutal process, and I was going through puberty. And I think, Steve, I don't know, like you saw me like after it was really brutal in puberty. You did still see me in the early days. I know that, where like some of those first couple songs I showed you, I think were pretty bad. But I remember how difficult it was even starting to sing, where everyone in like my family was like, you know what, dude, you're not John Mayer. Stop trying to be John Mayer. And I'm like, I'm not trying to be John Mayer. I'm just trying to sing my songs. And then they were like, your voice is bad. So I ended up like for a week, I was like, I'm going to be a jazz artist. I'm just going to play jazz guitar, and that's all I'm going to do. And then I was like, oh, that's bullshit.
So
I hate jazz. I was like, I'm going to do my music. I'm going to sing, and I'm just going to keep trying to get better. That's all I did. And I think I got just a little bit better.
One thing
But
that really impresses me about your musical ability is that you have the ability to improvise lyrics as well as lyrics, melody, kind of tune, but also play guitar at the same time. Like I can
yeah.
do kind of the music side. I can improvise that, but I've tried to improvise singing. I practiced that for like a good number of months, and it's so difficult.
Yeah, it's really a weird dance you have to do. I'll start playing something and mumble singing over it, and it's this weird weird type process where you're just trying to latch on to something. And sometimes I have to like stop the singing part just to focus on the guitar cuz sometimes I just get so lost in it. And then I'm like, I just need to focus on like what would sound cool on the guitar right now. Cause like sometimes the mumble singing right out of the gate works. Sometimes you trip into something great. And the next thing you know, the guitar part starts building and you start leading into the next thing and it starts working on a much larger level. But sometimes it doesn't. Sometimes it's not coming together. And it's just like, okay, what would just sound cool if I was listening to a guitarist play right now? And I start playing in that direction. And then sometimes I can get there just through that and then start mumble singing again over it. So,
Hmm. Hmm. Well, one little side topic with that is there's sometimes tools to inspiration, and at least as far as music goes, one big tool I use is music theory. So sometimes I'll think, okay, okay, I'm gonna go technical here, but I'll be thinking about like a certain riff, and then I start thinking about how to get the progression to work. So I'll start thinking, okay, let's go like 1 4, let's go up to a 6, and then I guess 5 might be useful. So you just kind of come up with a progression, or you might have like this little thing you're trying to get to, or like you have a song you're trying to get to one part, and you start kind of thinking, at least I do, start musically, like music theory wise, how would I fit this into this and get this to either slow down, speed up, or do this and that? And it's kind of like a more of a toolbox on my end. Would you say that you utilize music theory at all in your own singing songwriting?
so this is actually funny. I don't read music. I'm not into theory. I was always by ear, and it was a point of contention for me and my jazz ensemble teacher, Mr. Mamey, in high school. I remember he was so aggravated that I didn't read music, and I just like I got all the sheet music for the jazz ensemble songs for the guitar, and I saw they would just put the chords above it, and I would just like play like my own like improvise like background parts to the music, and like just keep them in those types of chords, that I'd play around with the time signatures because there was so much going on with these time signatures in these jazz ensemble songs. So I was learning how to play in all these different time signatures just because I had to keep up, and I had these chords that I had to do over these parts, and I knew that I could keep up with these because like I just like matched it up by ear, and it worked. And to the point where my teacher, like I was there every year in high school, and he kept having me back because the proof was in the pudding. I was like, he knew that I was adding something to that jazz ensemble because he was ruthless and he would kick people out over like nothing. I don't know if you guys have ever seen the movie Whiplash.
I've
I think that's the name of it.
I saw a movie review by a guy named Adam Neely, but I haven't actually seen it. But I've heard
So
about it, like
there's
a yeah.
yeah, there's this movie about J.K. Simmons is this like insane band teacher, and like I'm not saying that ours in high school was anything close to how they dramatized it in that movie, but it was like this idea of like there was this weird like dynamic between him and the kids, where I remember like one day I had misplaced my guitar folder, but there were so many people who were in and out of that filing thing. So I was just asking the teacher. I was like, "Hey, I can't find the guitar music folder," and he goes, "Well, I don't know, Matt. How many other guitar music folder people are out there in this band room right now?" And I just was like filled with this like sinking feeling because it was like not only just me in his office doing that, it was like me in front of the whole, like it was like everyone in the jazz. I just remember everyone was like like their faces were like, "You're a piece of shit. He just called you a piece of shit." And then like my walk over to the filing cabinet, I still couldn't find it. So he was like, "Well, I guess you're just gonna have to sit right there and watch everyone else play, huh, Matt?" And then I ended up finding it and not feeling like such a piece of shit sitting there watching everyone play the whole time. But I loved that early I forget what I was even saying that, but I love those early days in in playing and learning my playing through jazz. I went a little side avenue where I was like, oh, and my teacher was a piece of shit. Anyway, so back to my playing. I yeah, exactly. I took a little sidebar because I was
exactly
like, that
what
guy was a
happened,
piece of
yes.
shit, and I got real things that still linger in my brain
That's the
about him,
bridge.
and I got to get them out. And then we're gonna get right back to my playing, my guitar playing. So that's where I learned how to play really crazy time signatures without actually knowing about theory. No.
So to answer your
In
question,
short,
Nathan, no.
Now that my essay is done. In short, no.
And you know what? This episode's gonna end right about now. Why? Well, because it's 30 minutes. Our episodes are 30 minutes. So hey, next time we're gonna have more Matt Drew. It's gonna be awesome. It's gonna be amazing. And until next time, we need to talk. Yeah, this is me in post here. I'm not actually like saying this during the podcast. That'd be kind of weird and rude.